Here we are back at Old Marsh again in Florida. What a beautiful setup and the opportunity to give you another maybe brief video on shot shape and how your intent with shot shape and what you deliver is going to influence your strike and your spin rate around the greens. Let's take a look. Let's cut straight to it. It's undeniable that the majority of amateur golfers do not draw the golf ball. They tend to slice and fade. Might be generous, mostly slice. So they spend their whole golfing career trying to draw it, and they work on the range and they have lessons helping them to draw the golf ball. They are effectively trying to speed the ball up at the top end of the bag, get more distance with the driver, more distance with the irons, up to try and strike it better at the same time. Unfortunately, all this stuff kind of drips over into the short game, and the things that you really struggle to achieve with longer clubs, it's very achievable here because it's a smaller, slower golf swing, and you might actually manage to do what you're trying to do with no success with the big clubs in your bag. And that's where things get a little bit scary. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, your better player will typically be trying to make sure that around the green they slow the ball down, not speed it up, kind of the opposite to an amateur. They won't be trying to slow it down the top end of the bag, but they'll be trying to slow down and stay very good with speed at the top end. Obviously, generally strike a bit better, don't curve it much, a little bit left to right, a little bit right to left, but very, very efficient. So I would say I work more on slowing the ball down around the greens with poor players because they are so adept at doing all the little draw movements in this situation. So what we're going to look at is the influence of club delivery or club path specifically on contact point with the ground, where projected low point would be, and the kind of spin you get on the golf ball. Obviously, if you're trying to draw it with the big swing, what are you trying to do? You're trying to keep the club head moving inside, staying inside, and trying to make sure that face doesn't get too open. That's a recipe for draws, right? A face that's not open, at least not open to the path, could be open to the target. A face that's not open and a path that is out to the right. So as an example, I very often see in clinics players come along, taking the club way, way inside, keeping the face really closed down. That's a recipe for ball speed, but it also shifts the whole swing to the right. Now, if you take the midpoint of my club here, this point on the shaft, if I move my whole swing to the right, all else being equal, what happens to the low point? Moves back. Contact point on the ground certainly moves back, and everything gets a little bit shallower. The plane will tend to be a little bit lower. Now, big swings, doesn't matter, can't do it. These swings you can, so let's hit a couple. And I'm going to deliberately, and this kind of plays into my fault, I'm going to deliberately take the club inside. I'm going to keep it fairly closed. I'm going to make a normal body movement. I'm not going to compensate or try and recover. And I'm just going to see what happens to my contact point on the ground. It's going to be pretty shallow. And if I strike it okay, it's probably not going to spin a great deal. Okay, so it sounded a little bit clunky. It's gone to a foot. It sounded clunky and it rolled out quite a bit. So we'll hit another one. It's more luck than judgment. In, closed, big draw move. I'm going to make sure I do all the stuff you're supposed to do. Keep the arms in, keep the club in, keep the face closed down. Swing out to the right, all that good stuff. And you start to hear a sound that's definitely clunky, and that ball's actually moving that way on the ground. Helped a little bit by the green. If a draw path and draw delivery shallows things out, moves contact point back, what a fade path do? All things being equal, take the midpoint of the shaft here, move it to the left to turn my whole swing left, contact point, low point moves forwards, and it'll be a little bit steeper. So we're going to go similar setup, maybe not quite as far right. I'm going to try and make sure I'm actually out. Now I work hard, I'm not getting too far in, so my out might not be that out at all. And hopefully you're going to hear a different sound. I'm so leaving that in. Right, so an exaggerated out in had me hit too much ball. I thinned that on the downswing. Thinned it on the downswing. Let's hit another one. We could just cut it out, but what's the point? I want you to know that if you do shift things too far left, there's a risk of that. That's better. All right, what do we see? The ball flight popped up a little bit, but it had lots more check on it and pulled up way, way faster than the draw. It certainly pulled up way faster than the thin. So that's just me shifting things right, shifting things left, moving contact point around, seeing how the contact changes. Spin loft obviously changes. With the draw, spin loft's going to be low. You're going to not get any spin because of that. With the cut, spin loft's going to be a little bit higher. Spin's going to ramp up and your contact is going to be a little bit cleaner. Now, I like players to live somewhere in the middle. I don't have players cutting it deliberately unless they're trying to spin it more. And very rarely would have a player try and draw it. There are easier ways to take spin off the golf ball than doing that. Okay, how about we throw trajectory into the mix? So we've got a draws, we've got a fades. What about slightly higher draws, slightly lower draws, higher fades, lower fades? With those ball flight intentions, which admittedly you might not be thinking about doing on a golf course, but you know what, if you had to go around a tree, over a limb, under a limb, you could probably figure out how, or at least you should be. What happens to the ball then? How does it behave? How does it react on the green? What's the spin rate look like? What's the launch look like? Let's take a look. Let's start with a higher cut, I think we'll go for. So here I'm actually going to make sure I cut across it, and I'm going to let this club go a little bit faster. Now, when I let the club go faster, it shallows my attack out. Okay, so combining that with draw could be problematic. With a cut, I think I'll get a reasonable attack angle still. So we're going to go out, in, cut, high cut. Lovely. What do we get? A little bit more float on it, a little bit more spin. What about a high draw? This is hard because we're shifting things to the right. The contact point's already moving back, and I'm going to release it, which just shallows things further. High draw's kind of hard. But you know what? For the purpose of entertainment, let's see what happens. You know, trajectory-wise, it's actually quite similar to the cut, but you could hear the sound wasn't the same. Spin rate was different, so launch went up, spin actually dropped. Now, if there's a little bit more grass there, you know, maybe it would have floated a bit more, but who knows. How about a low cut? So that's going to steepen things right up, right? So what do we expect to see? Out in, we expect to see a little bit of a sharper strike, a little bit more crisp. I'm going to de-loft it a touch. Okay, good stopping power, but you can see what happened on the ground. Got a lot more dig. Now that's not the end of the world, as long as you combine it with the cut, because the low point is going to be further forwards. Low draw. Now this is probably manageable. So for the same reasons that the draw shifts the low point back that I've described, combined with the release of the club, if I move things back but I lean it more, I'm probably going to hit further forward still. We've got a little spectator just joining us for a minute. Fast forward. Okay, first tee's that way. Right, low draw. So I'm going to go in, same as before. I'm going to shut it slightly, but because I'm going to lean it more, my contact point is probably going to go forwards a little bit. This should come out with a decent amount of heat on it. Low draw. Okay, so the strike was better than the draws from before. It still wasn't great. It came out low and it rolled out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm not expecting an increase in spin rate there. Maybe a little bit more spin than the really kind of the draw I did at the beginning, where contact was so far back it really wasn't great. But still not a shot that functions very well. Okay, so knowing how you shift your swing direction around, your intent with low and high is going to influence how much shaft lean you put on the golf club at impact. Starting to recognize how they change ground contact, how they change ball flight, how they change spin, can be very useful. Hopefully the one thing you're taking from this is that generally draws around the green are not that useful.